Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rudy McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis is continuing to recover from his abdominal surgery at Rome's Gemelli hospital. The Holy See press office announced on Sunday that the post-operative recovery of the pontiff was normal. The Holy Father also did respiratory physiotherapy and had no fever. Doctors said his heart rate and blood pressure was also stable. Pope Francis's 3-hour hernia operation was carried out on the 7th of June. The Vatican said the pontiff would be praying in solitude and uniting himself spiritually with affection and gratitude to the faithful. Director of Abdominal and Endocrine Sciences at the Gemelli Hospital, Dr. Sergio Alfieri, said that the Pope woke up in good spirits and that the operation was a total success. As a precautionary measure, all the pontiff's private and general audiences have been cancelled until the 18th of June. Organisers of the upcoming World Youth Day in Lisbon have asserted that the event can only be held with Pope Francis. They said the event is a gathering with the Holy Father and the youth, adding that preparations are underway. Since Wednesday, the Pope has been hospitalised in Rome's Gemelli Polyclinic after undergoing intestinal surgery. He is set to participate in World Youth Day from the 2nd to the 6th of August in the Portuguese capital. As per his schedule, the Holy Father is expected to hear confessions from some participants and will join them for the Way of the Cross and prayer vigil during the days of the mega youth event. Shalom World is proud to announce that it has been selected as media partner for the upcoming World Youth Day in the Portuguese capital city Lisbon. Close to 1.5 million young believers from over 180 countries will gather in the city from the 1st to the 6th of August to take part in the largest gathering of the youth in the world. Shalom World has reached an agreement with the Pontifical Council for the Laity and the Bishops' Conference of Portugal regarding the media partnership. Viewers can watch the events starting from the opening Mass on the 1st of August, offered by Lisbon Patriarch Cardinal Manuel Clemente, to the return of the Holy Father Pope Francis to Rome on the 6th of the month. Shalom World will provide coverage of all programmes taking place in several languages, including Portuguese, Spanish, Italian and English. Prominent American conservative advocacy group CitizenGo has gathered more than 125,000 signatures as part of an online petition against Disney to protest against its plans to hold the first gay pride nights at its theme parks in California and Paris this month. The group is calling on people of goodwill and families to voice their protest against the move. In a statement, CitizenGo said that theme parks designed for children and families should focus on creating magical experiences that transcend cultural and political boundaries. It says that the petition is aimed at ensuring that Disney stays true to its roots and engages in stories without sexual content. CitizenGo is also reaching out to Disney advertisers such as Mattel, Marriott Hotels and Resorts, and Walmart. The advocacy group also said that ever since Disney began accommodating the homosexual agenda, its park attendance has dipped, with its movies and stock values plunging to their lowest levels in recent years. A state bill in California was recently amended to allow parents to be charged with child abuse if they fail to affirm the gender identity of their children. Critics claim that parents should have the liberty to make decisions in the best interests of their children. Assembly Bill 957 suggests that judges determining custody disputes must take into account whether each parent affirmed the gender identity of the child in question. Under California's family code, state courts would have the authority to remove a child from the parent's home if they failed to support their so-called gender identity. The National Health Service of England has announced that it will not give puberty blockers to children experiencing gender dysphoria. In a statement issued on the 9th of June, the publicly funded health service said that such hormones would only be commissioned for clinical research. This comes against the backdrop of allegations that there is insufficient evidence to support the children's safety or clinical effectiveness of the procedure. The NHS also published a guide emphasising what it calls a multidisciplinary and integrated approach to treating children with gender dysphoria. According to the newly implemented standards, a team including parents will choose the best solutions for such youth. The new recommendations said children who have already taken hormones or puberty blockers would be addressed on a case-by-case basis. The number of local American congregations disaffiliating themselves from the United Methodist Church over a heated debate on doctrine regarding homosexuality has crossed the 5,000 mark. The number of congregations leaving the Methodist Communion stood at 4,600 last Tuesday. Last year saw an uptick in the number of churches voting to disaffiliate, with close to 2,000 communities having their votes approved in 2022. This comes against the backdrop of liberal voices calling for an amendment in the Book of Discipline of the Methodist body regarding the ban on non-celibate homosexuals from being ordained as ministers. They also want same-sex unions to be blessed in the church, prompting the disappointment of conservative congregations. Police have arrested a woman for vandalizing a church in Miami-Dade County in the US state of Florida. Officials confirmed the detention of 44-year-old Alpha Illescas on Sunday. Parishioners called to report graffiti on the walls at St. Timothy Catholic Church and a school on the church premises. Investigators said they reviewed a surveillance video that captured the suspect defacing the walls with spray paint. The perpetrator continued walking through the school courtyard, spray painting various areas, kicking over bins and breaking parts of an altar. Illescas is charged with one count of criminal mischief in a church or place of worship. Meanwhile, the Archdiocese of Miami condemned the act and said it was a tragic case of hate crime. Security forces in Iran have arrested several families of the victims of state violence in 4 Kurdish cities. There are reports that agents of the Islamic regime arrested dozens of family members of victims of the anti-government uprising from these cities of Degolan, Sanadai, Divandere and Sakez on Friday. The family members had gone to the graves of the victims to pay homage when they were arrested by security agents. 40 people were arrested in the Aichi cemetery in Sakez, where the remains of a Kurdish girl who died in police custody are interred. 22-year-old Masa Amini was arrested and detained by morality police for improperly wearing a hijab last year. She is said to have died due to alleged custodial torture. Her death triggered massive anti-government agitations across the country. More than 20,000 people have been detained and hundreds killed in brutal crackdowns. The United Nations has expressed grave concern over a recent Taliban statement saying the regime will not tolerate any international groups in Afghanistan's education sector. After it came to power, the Taliban prohibited girls from attending middle and high school and higher education institutions. Their diktat also prevents women and girls from working with non-governmental organisations of foreign origin, which has severely impacted humanitarian aid work in the impoverished nation. UN Secretary-General spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said that if the Taliban goes ahead with its ban on international groups in the educational sector, then it would be another horrendous step backward for the people of Afghanistan and, above all, for women and girls. The Mexican Catholic bishops have expressed deep concern over a draft resolution that seeks to declare nativity scenes as unconstitutional. The Supreme Court of Justice of the nation will debate the draft resolution on the 14th of June. The resolution is based on a complaint filed by a non-governmental organisation named Canan Derechos Humanos against 3 municipalities in Yucatan state for placing Christmas creches in December and January in public spaces. The head of the Bishops' Conference, Bishop Ramon Castro of Cuernavaca, rejected claims that nativity scenes violate religious freedom and the constitutional principles of the secular state. The bishop said in a statement that the ideas contained in the resolution constitute an act of repression against the symbols and cultural expressions of the Mexican people. He also added that religious symbols and traditions should be given legal recognition. Amid the economic crisis in Sri Lanka and the crackdown on anti-government protests, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit of Colombo is calling for snap elections. The prelate said that fresh elections are needed, as it is not possible to develop the nation under rulers who do not love their country. He was speaking at an event to mark the centenary of St. Anthony's College in Katana. Although economic pressure has begun to ease in the island nation, there is still much discontent across the country, especially among the youth. The Ranil Wickremesinghe government has repeatedly delayed plans to have fresh polls. The government also put on hold elections that were scheduled for April the 25th, citing that budget allocations only allowed for essential expenses. While the Cardinal is calling for an immediate vote, under Sri Lankan law, the next election must be held by September next year at the latest. The United Nations is setting up a mega central archive in Iraq with millions of digitized documents on crimes committed by the Islamic State. The fieldwork to establish the archives was undertaken by the UN Investigative Team for Accountability of Daesh ISIL 5 years ago to bring the perpetrators of atrocities to justice. UN Chief Investigator Christian Richer said the Central Archive will come up in the coming days at the Supreme Judicial Council of Iraq. He said that once the archive becomes fully operational, then those responsible for crimes can be held accountable by means of evidence-based trials before competent courts. He said there was no shortage of proof of such crimes in the country, adding that 8 million pages have already been digitised and the process to convert the remaining pages is progressing. Mr. Richer said that the new archive will be a milestone in establishing a comprehensive e-justice system in Iraq that can be upheld as a leading example globally. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more. And do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.